Well, forever really. The human brain has been this ultimate black box, right? But what if we could actually build a working model of it? I'm talking about a digital twin, something so accurate it can predict what your brain is doing from moment to moment. Well, today, we're diving into a brand new AI model that claims to do just that. And honestly, this could open up a whole new frontier in science. I mean, just think about what that really means for a second. What if you could test a new therapy for depression on a virtual brain? Or simulate how a new medication for, say, schizophrenia might work? Or even test out a therapy for anxiety, all inside a computer long before it ever gets to a real person? That's the world this kind of tech is promising, and it's exactly what we're going to break down.
So, to really get why this is such a huge deal, you got to understand the core problem that brain science has been stuck on. We know a ton about specific little bits of the brain, like this part lights up when you see a face, that part handles motion. But seeing how it all works together, the whole system, that's been the real puzzle. We've just never had a single, unified model that shows how all those pieces connect.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. Neuroscience has been like trying to solve a 1,000-piece puzzle, but you've lost the box top. So scientists have all these individual pieces, right? Decades of incredible research. But without that final picture to guide them, it's been almost impossible to see how they all fit together to create, well, us. How do vision and sound and language all magically combine into a single, seamless thought? That's the missing picture.
And that is where TRIBE-v2 comes in. It's a brand new foundation model from researchers at Meta AI, and it's designed to be exactly that, the missing box top. A universal brain model that just might, finally show us the whole picture.
And the scale of this thing is just, wow. TRIBE-v2 wasn't trained on a little bit of data. We're talking over 1,000 hours of fMRI scans. The machines that track brain activity by looking at blood flow. They got this data from hundreds of people, all just watching movies and listening to stories. And the whole point was to get the AI to learn how to map what we see, what we hear, and what we read directly onto the crazy complex patterns of activity happening inside our skulls.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. Step 1, you feed it some stuff. Video, audio, text, whatever. Step 2, it uses a bunch of other smart AIs, ones that are already experts in vision or language, to break all that down into its core components. Then, step 3, it takes all that information and predicts the pattern of activity across the entire brain. It's basically a translator, a bridge between the outside world and our inner world.
And check this out, the results are absolutely stunning. Seriously, what you're seeing on the left is a real fMRI scan from a real person's brain. On the right, that's the model's prediction of what their brain would look like. And get this, it had never seen this person's data for this specific video clip before. The similarity is it's remarkable. It's almost spooky.
And look, it's not just that it looks good, the numbers totally back it up. This chart here shows TRIBE-v2 compared to the old-school methods, what are called linear models. Think of those as trying to draw a really simple straight-line connection between what you see and what your brain does. As you can tell, TRIBE-v2 is just way more accurate across the board. The bottom line here is simple. This isn't a tiny improvement. It's a huge leap forward.
Okay, so it's accurate. That's cool. But accurate prediction, that's just the starting line. The real game changer, the thing that gets so exciting, is that this model can be used as a virtual lab, a digital twin of the brain that we can actually run experiments on.
And this brings us to this key idea called In-Silico experimentation. Now, that sounds super technical, but it's really not. It just means doing your experiments inside a computer, in silicon, like a computer chip. So instead of all the time and money it takes to find human subjects, put them in a noisy fMRI machine, and crunch the data, you can just run your experiment on the model. It's a total paradigm shift.
So, to prove this actually works, the researchers did something brilliant. They took a bunch of classic, famous neuroscience experiments and just ran them on the model. For instance, they showed it pictures of faces and pictures of places, and boom! The model correctly predicted that the part of the brain that recognizes faces, the fusiform face area, would light up for faces, and the part for places, the parahippocampal place area, would light up for places. I mean, this is stuff that took scientists decades to figure out, and the model replicated it in seconds.
And they didn't stop there. They did the exact same thing for language. They tested if it could tell the difference between a real sentence and just a random list of words. It could. They checked if it could spot the difference between simple and complex grammar. It could do that too, and it even knew which parts of the brain's language network would have to work harder. What this shows, and this is the crucial part, is that the model hasn't just memorized patterns.
It's actually learned some of the fundamental rules of how our brains operate.
Okay, so we have a model that works. It can replicate real experiments. The big question is, so what? What can we actually do with a virtual brain? And this, right here, is where things get really, really interesting. The possibilities are potentially transformative, especially for huge fields like healthcare and artificial intelligence.
All right, let's really unpack these use cases, because this is where the rubber meets the road. First up, healthcare and mental health. Just imagine, you could create a digital twin of a brain that shows patterns of depression or schizophrenia. Now, you can test hundreds of different virtual drugs or therapies on that model, see which ones actually change the brain activity back to a healthier state, all without a single human patient. This could completely change how we discover new treatments, making it so much faster and safer. Then you've got psychology. Let's say you're a psychologist with a new idea about how emotion works or how we learn. Instead of spending years and a small fortune on human studies, you could just run it on the model, test your theory 1,000 different ways in an afternoon. It's a tool for rapid-fire discovery. And what about AI research? You know, the human brain is still the most efficient computer on the planet. By studying a working model of it, AI researchers can get a blueprint for building smarter, less power-hungry AI, the kind that might actually learn like we do. And finally, for neuroscientists themselves, this thing is like a search engine for the brain. It lets them ask incredibly specific what-if questions and get back concrete predictions, which means their real-world experiments can be smarter and more focused from day one.
And it's not just about testing old ideas. The model is already giving us brand new ones. Just look at this map. It's incredible. Think of it like a sound mixing board for the senses. Red is where the brain processes text. Green is for audio. Blue is for video. But the really cool part, it's the blended colors. The yellows, the purples, those are the hubs where your brain is mixing everything together, where vision and sound become a single experience. Trying to map these hubs has been a huge headache for neuroscientists, and now, for the first time, we can just see it.
So when you put it all together, what does this all mean? It feels like we're turning a page, entering a totally new era. This isn't just about making better predictions of brain scans anymore. This gives us a whole new framework, a new language, to start really understanding the most complicated thing we know of, the human brain.
And, the authors of the paper said it best themselves. They said AI isn't just a tool for this kind of work anymore. It's becoming the unifying framework. It's the very structure we can use to explore how our brains are put together and maybe even how our minds come from all that wiring.
Which leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending thought. If we can really build a working model of the human brain, what's the first thing we should ask it to dream of? Seriously. The ability to simulate our own minds could unlock everything from cures for diseases to the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself. The only limit, really, is our own imagination. So the real question is, where on earth do we start?